Alex Jensen made a strong first impression in his introductory press conference as the new head coach of the Utah men's basketball team. But does it mean he is the guy who's going to turn this Utah program around? We're talking about it on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen and view of the day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. If it's your first time tuning into the show, make sure you like and subscribe. Today's episode is brought to you by the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Stay with us for the Armada Team of the Week later in the episode. My name is JT Wistrcill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department. Excited to be joined on today's show by Ethan Pearce, a writer for UteZone. Ethan, Alex Jensen introductory press conference. We got to see it. Also, we're going to talk about the linebacker room, explore some of the depth there, and talk about the fact that Utah men's basketball team and the women's team are both in the postseason. The men's team very different than the women's team making the field. But the Alex Jensen introductory press conference, anytime your team introduces a new head coach at a major sport like basketball, we got to start with that first. I thought it was a really strong impression. I honestly did come away stronger from Jensen. We just haven't gotten to hear him talk a ton as an NBA assistant coach. So I thought it was great to hear him talk. I always felt like he was the right guy for this job, but listening to him cemented that feeling. And I am really excited about the future. I thought he proved he's the right guy for this job.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, there's only so much you can say in a press conference, right? You gotta talk the talk and then you gotta walk the walk. But I think that he said all the right things today. We kind of got a little bit more of an insight onto his vision for the team and what he's trying to put together for next season and beyond too, right? Like the vision for the future of this program, in terms of how they're going to recruit, how they're going to, treat the players, how they're going to run this ship top to bottom. Right. So it was good to kind of get a little more insight on that.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that vision? I'm excited about it, but do you think that's the right vision for this Utah men's basketball program?
I mean, yeah, I think, he mentioned that he wants to build a hard-nosed defensive team that, pays attention to the little things, right? Dot your I's and cross your T's, and make sure that they're a team that nobody wants to face, right? You never want an opponent going into a game saying, oh, yeah, they'll be, this will be easy. Oh, yeah, we can just do this and this and this, and we'll cruise to a win. You want the Utes to be able to put out counters to people, have guys that always play hard and know where to be on the floor, and I think that's a really good idea. So
I think that could really serve Utah specifically well too, because I already think Utah has an advantage, as we talk about all the time with even the other sports, the altitude. It's an advantage to come here. And I think one of the reasons in the past, not this year, we saw the football team be so good at home is because teams get fatigued and tired and they make mistakes. There's always a lot of penalties and things of that nature. If Utah can just be a tough defensive team that causes turnovers, disrupts, and doesn't beat themselves, Ethan, tell me if I'm wrong. I think that's actually just going to give you a lot of wins, especially they were good at home this last year. They could be even better overall just because of what a good home court advantage it is playing in Utah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely true, right? If you can tire an opposing team out, they're just by nature, they're going to move a little slower. Their brain's not going to work quite as fast, right? So, the Utes have this home court advantage using the altitude, right? We've seen the Jazz, implement kind of similar strategies in the past, just kind of using that to your advantage as much as you can. Denver, the Nuggets have had a great home court advantage in the NBA over the past couple of years, and that's part of because they have good players too. But I think that leaning into that is definitely smart.
Yeah, this road, look, BYU, obviously I wish Utah had the best basketball program in the state. Right now it's the Cougars, but the fact that BYU is already good, and if Utah can be good, those two teams can help each other out a lot in the regular season just by making it a gauntlet to come out here. Yeah. And then hopefully we can also beat up on BYU, obviously, as we try to improve and get some things right too. But when we talk about the most interesting things he said, and I'll just say favorite, maybe not most interesting, but I really liked when he said, hey, I can't be Rick Majerus. But he said the players and other coaches will react to him and respect him being genuine. And I absolutely agree with that, as we got a little cat cameo coming in as well here for our audio listeners. But yeah, but I really like that, just saying hey, I can't be Rick Majerus. Is that how I expect him to approach it? Of course, but that is 1000% the right mindset to take. And I think there are so many people that I've heard want us to get back to those days. And that's fair. You can want us to get back to making the tournament every year. I think Final Four NCAA Championship's a lofty expectation, but just being consistently there. But you have to do it differently if you want to have that success. And I do feel confident in Alex Jensen being the guy who can do it differently and have that success. So I really like that quote.
Yeah, I think so too. I think, obviously Rick Majerus is going to be a big part of this conversation, right? Because not only did Jensen play under Rick Majerus, he coached with him for a couple of years there after his playing career. So Majerus is clearly kind of his mentor and a guy that he's built a lot of his basketball philosophy around. But another thing that I really liked that Alex said was about how he's going to have to evolve back to the college game as the college game is evolving itself. He thinks that the college game is kind of getting a little more similar to the NBA as the years go on, and things ebb and flow and change. But with the emphasis on shooting a lot more threes, getting higher quality shots, more things in the paint and from the 3-point line. But the game is always going to continue to change, both on and off the court, right? With the NIL thing and the stylistic differences in the different leagues that you're playing against, and all these different teams that have push the game forward year after year. So I think it's smart to really want to adapt with the times and try to just always stay on your toes, because basketball never stays the same. It's always going to be different year after year.
It changes so much. The game evolves, it adapts, and Jensen seems like a guy who's ready to that. I mean, he deals with that at the NBA. I mean, a grueling 82-game regular season schedule, a ton of just travel fit in between that as well. So he's someone who's been through a lot and feels like he's definitely ready for this moment. And it felt like the energy in the building was really good. Ethan, would you say the same?
I think so. Yeah. I was there in person. Good amount of, university pillars there, people that have been around the team in the university and stuff. And a few of them got to speak to the crowd, and, a good sized contingent of Utah fans there, giving out some t-shirts and stuff. It was a good vibe in the building.
It felt like I like the decision to go make it public, make it a celebration. That's what it is. And it's also just still and we'll talk about this at the end. I just cannot believe that Utah still has games to play while all this was going on too. It's just, it's a wild situation with all of this that's happening. But Ethan, one thing obviously Jensen hopes to do is get Utah back to the lofty pedestal it was back in the 90s. So when yesterday we saw the Field of 68 get released, there was no controversy whatsoever, as there never is with that, obviously, right? Too. So, but one thing, the question then becomes hey, the reason you get Alex Jensen is because you want to be a team that gets back in there. I do think Utah will get in there. Now it's obviously very early because they haven't added anyone on this roster, but Ethan, I do want to ask you this: agree or disagree? I would be surprised if sometime in the next 2 seasons Utah wasn't in the field.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that it's been a clear, message from the university this offseason. It seems like they are really wanting to push this team back into contention. And that's with, Alex Jensen accepting the job, the decision to move on from Craig Smith early, right, with still games left in the season. I think that this, and also, with the new arena being built, potentially getting that up and running here in a couple of years. So I think that it seems to me like university management is really focused on making men's basketball a priority again, because it's really just been a lot of football. The women's team has been doing really well. And then the men's, they haven't had success in almost 10 years. So I just think that there's a reinvigoration of this program. Hopefully, some more money and things like that coming in to build a competitive team. But I'm with you. I do think that they will try their damn hardest to make March Madness within the next couple of years. And if they don't, that would probably be a pretty big disappointment.
It would be a big disappointment. I definitely think, like I said, do I think this team's going to make it next year? Just genuinely prediction. Maybe it's riding the vibes right now. I do think they will. But if they won't, I won't be disappointed because it's his first year, only our second year in the Big 12. This is tough to do. So I think by year 3, if they hadn't made it, is when I'd be disappointed probably. But I just genuinely do think sometime in the next 2 years, it'll click and it'll work. There just seems to be a lot of excitement. Everything about the NIL, the revenue sharing leads me to believe in this team. And there's even other coaching potential news and rumors and hires that are still leaving us hopefully optimistic for that future as well. Ethan, you mentioned football. We're about to talk about some Utah football and continue our spring positional preview in one moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by our friends at Nissan. The Armada Team of the Week is brought to you by our friends at Nissan and the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Each week, our Locked On College basketball experts are picking one team that stands apart from top-seeded stars to unexpected upsets. These guys showcase their strength and sheer power needed to push their team forward. This week's Armada and clear-cut Team of the Week is the Florida Gators. The Gators, led by Walter Clayton's 17-point game, just dominated the SEC tournament by winning each game by at least least 9 points. Not only did Florida grab the 4th 1 seed, but they are the nation's most efficient offense. When it comes to the Nissan Armada, they say go forth and conquer, and that's exactly what the Florida Gators have done here. It's clear that our team of the week is out here and ready to conquer the road ahead with confidence, just like you can in the all-new Nissan Armada or any of the Nissan's outstanding vehicles. Take the Nissan Armada, Rogue, or Pathfinder and go find your next big adventure. You can head over and shop nissanusa.com today. Today's episode of Locked On Utes is also brought to you by our friends at Fabric by Gerber Life. Life moves fast, especially when you have a family. One day you're watching your kids take their first steps, and before you know it, they're off to college. That's why securing their future is so important. Fabric by Gerber Life makes it simple to get term life insurance that fits your family's needs. With Fabric, you can apply for term life insurance online right from your couch. You could be covered in under 10 minutes, and in many cases, no health exam is required. It'll also give you that peace of mind too that you got to love. As a parent, you want to make sure your family's financially prepared no matter what happens. Fabric gives me the peace of mind that helps me know, hey, it's going to be okay. You can get $1 million in coverage for less than $1 with their affordable coverage plan. You can get $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day. So protecting your loved ones doesn't have to break the bank. So also that beyond life insurance, Fabric offers free digital wills and access to investment accounts to help you plan for your child's future. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their families. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. That's all caps, no spaces. That's meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. All caps, no spaces. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Insurance Company. Not available at certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. Make sure you guys head over and check out Fabric by Gerber Life. Today you can head over and see Gerber Life, what they have with the life insurance offered by Gerber Life. Ethan Pearce of UteZone back with me here. Ethan, talk about this Utah linebacker room. I do feel like right now there's a top 3 I look at and I go, okay, your starters are going to be, and how often do you end up, do you do 3-4, 4-3, things of that always also end up shaking out in this? I knew, and I should even say like a 2-4 basically, because or 4-2, because a lot of times you only see 2 linebackers on the field. But I do, Lander Barton is obviously the top guy in this linebacker room. Then Levani Damuni, I expect to start next with him. And I liked what I saw from Jonathan Hall. I thought there were good flashes. He didn't have some great moments, but as your third linebacker, I think he was overcast in that role last year. It should have been Damuni, Reed, Barton, but he got some experience. I feel good about him as the third linebacker. Those are the top 3 guys. We talk about some of the depth pieces in a moment, but I really like this group, especially the top half, Ethan.
I mean, yeah, dude, Lander Barton is an absolute stud. He's a dude that's most likely going to be playing on Sundays in the NFL here coming up pretty soon. So good to have him back for his senior season. And I think he's ready to kind of take over that vocal leader in the locker room role and stuff like that, because Utah has really been spoiled with some awesome linebackers in the past couple of years. And I think Lander being the main guy, it's just going to be really fun to watch.
It is going to be really fun to watch. I'm incredibly excited to see what he can do. He had a little bit of a down year last year, I felt like, but I also felt like he had to cover up for Karene Reed's absence at times and was asked to do some different things. So now that we'll have a guy in Levani Damuni who can do the things that Karene Reed always did, I think we'll see the old Lander Barton return to form, and I think he will be better. Almost, if you looked up Lander Barton 2025 NFL draft, there were so many results that popped up because so many teams thought he was going to declare. He felt like he was going to be a 3-year guy, didn't have the third year he wanted, so he comes back, and that's even better for Utah too. And I, once again, just incredibly high on what Barton can do and really looking forward to seeing him put it all together. His senior campaign for what I think is just going to be spectacular. And speaking of not seniors, but grads, you get Damuni back as well. This is a guy who played in 13 games in 23, 7 starts, led the team with 87 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, 0.5 sacks. And if you're going to be a good team, you need veterans like Damuni who, they're going to break a big run. Nope, Damuni got him. Oh, he's good. Oh, there's a guy open. Nope, Damuni knocked it away. Like just a surefire veteran, knows where to be, knows how to execute. Was a really good get from Stanford a couple years ago and a big addition that's coming back to this Utah team.
Yeah, man, experience wins in college football. You got to have these guys that have played in a bunch of games, and Damuni fits the bill. So I think that, like I said, Utah has been really, really spoiled with some good linebackers over the last couple of years, and I think that trend's just going to continue. The room looks really solid to me.
And speaking of really solid, I still remember the first time Jonathan Hall really caught my eye in that. He was probably the best thing to come out of the Las Vegas Bowl a couple of years ago against Northwestern, that brutal loss. He started safety there, had 5 tackles, and included a third down sack too. And then they moved him to linebacker last year. And like I said, he had to play a little bit more than I probably would have liked him. He had 38 tackles, 9 TFLs, a sack, and 4 passes defended too, with 1 interception and 3 pass breakups. But those abilities that made him such a strong linebacker to me also totally popped or made such a strong safety, also popped with him as a linebacker. And I do think this is a guy that, hey, he was just making the transition last year, so it was a little bit of an adjustment, another year under his belt. I think he's going to be really good. I expect to see him on the field frequently, like he was a lot last year. More time. I also think Colton Swan is one heck of a coach too, and I do expect a really nice year from Jonathan Hall. I don't think it's going to be like, oh, he'll go off and be an NFL guy, but I think he'll be the guy. We're going to lose both Lander and Levani after this year. I think a year from now, Jonathan Hall will be the best guy in this linebacker room, and we'll be feeling really good about him. I already feel pretty good about him right now.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. I think the the tools that are required to be good at the safety position, a lot of those are going to carry over to the linebacker position as well. As far as position changes go, yeah, obviously there's a learning curve and things that you're going to have to get down, but it's not as dramatic as switching sides of the ball or something else like that, right? So I think that he's really going to slide right in. Those physical tools are really going to help him out there. And so, yeah, I agree with you, man. I think he's a good player.
When we talk about the other depth, Trey Reynolds was a guy who saw a little bit of time last year. The junior played in all 12 games. He had 13 tackles on the season, though, so definitely more that fourth guy. I do expect him, now that Karene's gone, like, hey, if someone were to get hurt, that's where I do think he moves up the depth chart a little bit too. But you're also other guys, Cyrus Polu. Halu is a guy, Metakai Halu, the Stansbury High School. He went on his mission. Now that he comes back, he's got some incredible speed. He was a great running back there too. Kristen Thatcher is another real, like, I think three. Him and Polu were like nearly 4 stars. If I can't remember if they ended up at 3 or 4, but there's some good depth in this room too. And I feel good about the future outlook too. Ethan, do you think Thatcher, Polu, is there another guy you're looking at that maybe will surprise us out of like the top 3 we mentioned, or do you think it'll mostly be those top 3 guys?
I think it'll mostly be those guys. I mean,
Yeah.
I just see another Ellis in there and I get excited. But just redshirt freshman Elijah Ellis. So
how can you not? How can you not?
You always see that name and you're just like, he's got to be good, right?
1,000.
Yeah.
I feel the same way, 1,000%. Look, we're gearing up for spring ball coming up here really soon. Ethan, I want to know for you, what's the biggest question you think this team needs to answer during spring ball?
Man, that's a good one. I think that they just we need to really establish that defensive identity again. And I know it's kind of tough in spring ball, right? With that defensive toughness, because you're going against your teammates. You're not like out there trying to take anybody's head off. But I just want to see, a level of intensity and focus on the defense that I think was a little bit missing last year at points, right? I think that Utah has set a really high bar for themselves on that end of the ball. And so I just want to see them get back to that level. So just looking for signs that that's going to happen this season.
Well, they have so much to replace, too. Jonathan Vasa went somewhere we won't mention. How about Junior Tafuna off the NFL? Zamaya Vaughn's gone. Cameron Calhoun entered the portal and is now at Bama. Corene Reed, we were just talking about his loss, too. And then you even get a guy, a veteran, Kenan Johnson, who we were like, oh, he was hurt last year, but this year will be a big part of the plans. Oh, he entered the portal. So that's a lot that this team lost, that they have to replace on the defensive side of the ball. Thankfully, you trust the coaching a ton over there, so you think they'll be okay. They got a couple of good transfer additions in too, but that's also sometimes Utah gets a transfer and you're like, oh yeah, we'll just pencil him in to start. But especially on like the defensive line, oh my gosh, there's so many defensive ends that could all end up starting up front too. So lots of different pieces and things that still need to be worked out for this Utah team. One thing that's still working itself out is the Utah basketball season, and not just for the women's team who made the NCAA tournament. We're fired up about them having the opportunity. Surprisingly, the men's team is involved in postseason action. We're going to talk about how wild and crazy it is that the 24-25 Utah men's basketball team is living to fight another day in one moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by our friends at Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in the marketing, developing, designing, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. And that's the thing that Upwork's going to offer you, to take your business to that next level. And when we're talking about Upwork, it gives you business flexibility by connecting them with the top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. I like finding the right talent. That's one thing that they do a phenomenal job. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivered incredible results. It's also that fast and easy hiring process where you can post a job for free. It's just simple. And within a day, you get multiple qualified candidates to choose from. It's also cost-effective growth. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps you find affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale my business effectively. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with the top talent and grow your business today. If you have your eyes on growing your business in 2025, then you need to head over and use Upwork today, because with Upwork, you truly can take your business to the next level. Also want to tell you guys about something really special we have coming up. March Madness is here, and Locked On has you covered with Bracket Breakdown.
The NCAA Tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA Tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Ethan Pearce back with me here. Ethan, when talking about the bracket, they mentioned Florida a little bit earlier, and we'll talk about the Utah basketball English in like 1 second, but I think Florida and Duke, and there's a lot of really good SEC teams too, but those are the two in particular I got an eye on. I got Duke winning mine. Who do you got winning yours real quick?
I picked Houston. I like the Big 12, and a really good defensive team is always something good to bet on. So
1,000%. Let us know below who you guys are picking to win your bracket, and how far you think some of these Big 12 teams are going to go. I'm really curious to see how BYU ends up faring against VCU. They've been complaining a lot about getting matched up with VCU. VCU's a good team, but BYU should definitely win that matchup to me, as big as in Colorado. So we'll see how that factors out. Speaking of NCAA tournament, the Utah women's basketball team is involved in the field of 68. They have a tough matchup in Indiana. They became an 8 seed, had a couple tough losses along the way. So it's a tough matchup with this Hoosiers squad, but still definitely feel like this is one that Utah has a chance to win. And I think this is a Utah team that is going to be fired up and excited for this chance. Gianna Neepkins, Coach Peterson. I'm looking forward to seeing what Utah can do here.
Yeah, me too. I think you're right. I think 8 seed is tough, but I think it's fair given the resume that they have this year. They've lost a couple of games that they probably shouldn't have lost. But I think to be an 8 seed and just have a chance to advance through the tournament, I think is big. And Indiana's a good team. Those 8-9 matchups are never going to be easy, but definitely a game that they can win. What comes after that is a little tougher, though, isn't it?
Oh gosh, South Carolina is after that next. Now let's say this Utah team nearly beat LSU a couple years ago. Jenna Johnson ended up missing a couple free throws, and that's just like how it went late. So you're right there where you could have knocked off Kim Mulkey. Gosh, I would have loved it if Utah could have won that game. Not even just for the Utah angle, just anytime you can see Kim Mulkey go down, I'd be a fan of, honestly. But I do think this is a situation where it's going to be really hard for Utah to get past South Carolina. If you were asking me to predict like how I think this tournament's going to play out, I think Utah does get the better of Indiana. I mean, that's going to be a game. Also 1:30 on Friday, March 21st, 1:30 Eastern time. So that is 11:30 there. Utah has got 57% chance to win too. I know they had the loss to Texas Tech, a couple tough ones along the way, but they did win 3 more games than the Hoosiers. So I'm feeling Utah there. But Ethan, as much as I want to pick Utah to beat South Carolina, Dawn Staley, what she's built, I can't. I do see South Carolina winning it there.
I mean, that is a perennial contender that has looked amazing all season long. I think for the Utes, like I was thinking about this the other day. You go into that game with the mindset of you got nothing to lose, right? You're playing South Carolina. If you lose, you lost to South Carolina, right? Like it's whatever. You lost to the best team in the sport over the last 5, 6, 7, however many years. So you go in there, try to pull off an upset, see what you can do. And if not, it was a good season. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Got to get past Indiana first. But it's definitely a tough draw to be potentially matched up with South Carolina in the second round. But like I said, you're playing with house money, right? And a win is a miracle. Anything short of that, give it their best effort, right?
Yep. No, 1,000%. And the men's basketball team gave it their best effort, and they're also involved in postseason basketball, surprisingly, and not the NIT, the Crown. That's right. The new championship tournament is going to be put on by Fox, played in Vegas. It's wild. We're here. They're going to play Butler at noon on March 31st. So we got a little more time till it gets there. The championship game will be played before the national championship. Ethan, I can't believe this Utah team still going. I'm happy for Gabe Madsen, Hunter Erickson, Mason Madsen, Lawson Levy, these guys who want to keep playing in their college experience. But I mean, just speaking real, like it's really weird that Utah's decided to continue this season when they just had a press conference hyping up the future. Like it seems like they're ready to move forward. So I'm happy for the guys, and I do think it was the right decision to accept it. Just also a weird one based on everything that the university has kind of said, and obviously the choices they made.
Yeah, I mean, I think this decision, it is definitely interesting, especially with the timing of this tournament, right? The first game is 2 weeks away still. So they're going to have to practice and still be together as a team and you know, act like they're still in the season for a couple more weeks and see what they can do.
While Jake Wallin is in the transfer portal.
Yes, while Jake Wallin, and so is Brandon Haddock. And I know he's not playing, but I imagine that we will see some more players like that entering the portal while still planning to play in this tournament. And it's just funny. I was looking at like the standings and like the records of all these teams, and basically everyone in the field of 16 is under 500 in conference play. It's made up of a bunch of, you know, Big 12, Big 10, and Big East teams. The best team in the field is probably Boise State, who the Utes would most likely play in the second round if they beat Butler. So going to be a tough run there. I do think it's interesting to want to keep playing this season. I guess that's a testament to Josh Eilert and the locker room that they have. You know, the guys want to keep playing, not just for themselves, but for the seniors as well. So we'll have to see what kind of roster is on the court in a couple of weeks, because I imagine that there will be a few rotation guys that actually don't end up playing. And you know, just anecdotally, tonight at the press conference, almost the entire team was there. I did not see either of the Madsen brothers, and we did not see Mike Sharavjumps there. We're not at the press conference. Ezra Sarr came in late, and the rest of the team was there at the beginning.
Wallin was there?
Wallin, I believe, was there.
Okay.
I didn't see him, but I heard he was there.
Okay.
So,
And he said before, I think he said he was open to playing in postseason with Utah.
Yes. So I think that my gut tells me Wallin plays, and I actually think he'll come back next year. He's just kind of exploring his options right now, but we'll have to see. Everything's in flux right now. And especially too with Alex Jensen finishing the season with the Mavericks, which is something that he talked about tonight as well. He's going to have to, you know, hire a couple assistants, but still focus on the NBA season for this next month and a half or so, assuming the Mavs miss the playoffs. It's just a very weird situation. This whole coaching search and postseason thing, not in a bad way, just something that I don't think we've ever seen before.
It 1000% is. It's going to be a wild ride, and it's going to be crazy to watch how all this offseason for Utah basketball plays out. And we're still gearing up for spring football too. Ethan, if everyone wants to try and keep it all straight, where they need to head over to?
UteZone.com, man. We're going to be covering the entire offseason. You know, the transfer portal's getting hopping already, like we were just talking about. So some new recruits in there, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, UteZone.
Always fun having you on. Thanks, Ethan.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate it.
That's going to do it for today's Locked On Utes. We'll be back tomorrow. We still got to talk about the quarterbacks. Isaac Wilson, Devin Dampier leading into spring ball. Hope you'll join us then.